Relax and take notes while I take totes of the marijuana smoke. Throw you in a choke, gun smoke. Biggie smokes for mayor, the rap slayer, the hooker layer. Motherfucker, say your prayers. Hail Mary, full of grace. Smack the bitch in the face, take her Gucci bag and a North Face off her back. Jab her if she act funny with the money. Oh, you got me mistaken, honey. I don't wanna rape ya, I just want the paper, the visa, the pisha. I'm out like the vapors. Who's the one?
The entire prison yard went silent. A 295-pound inmate stood in the middle of the yard, staring at the new arrival like he had stared down every man before him. Nobody had ever made him move. Until today. If you want to see what happened next, hit subscribe. We drop a new story every single day. The prison yard at Westfield Correctional Facility was not a place where men showed weakness. Every square foot of that concrete space had a meaning. Every bench, every corner, every patch of open ground belonged to someone. Not on paper, not by any official rule, but by the kind of law that exists in places where the only currency is respect and the only consequence is pain. Marcus Cole had claimed the center of that yard on his very first week inside. 4 years ago, he was 295 pounds of disciplined muscle, standing 6 feet 3 inches tall, with 4 arms like bridge cables and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone rather than born. He had come into Westfield with a reputation already built, transferred from another facility where, according to the stories that traveled ahead of him, he had broken 3 men in his first month without ever raising his voice first. He did not need to raise his voice. His presence was the warning. The center of the yard was his spot. Every single morning, without exception, Marcus would walk out through the heavy metal doors, cross the yard in a straight line, and plant himself in the middle of the open ground. He would stretch there. He would train there. He would stand there and watch the rest of the facility move around him the way water moves around a boulder. Nobody sat near him unless invited. Nobody trained in that space unless he allowed it. 4 years. Not one man had tested that arrangement and walked away feeling like he had won. The guards knew about it. The warden knew about it. But Marcus Cole had never given them a technical reason to act. No written rules said a man could not stand in the center of the yard. No policy prohibited others from simply choosing to move around him. The system looked the other way because Marcus kept his violence precise and his provocations invisible to paperwork. He was smart enough to understand the difference between power and exposure. That Tuesday morning started the same way every morning started. Breakfast. Count. The heavy doors opening to the yard. Marcus walked out first, the way he always did. The other inmates filtered out behind him, spreading naturally to the edges and corners of the space, leaving the center open the way you leave a stage empty before the performance begins. 2 new transfers had arrived the night before. Nobody paid much attention to new arrivals anymore. New arrivals either figured out the rules within 48 hours or they learned them the hard way. Either way, Marcus did not concern himself with the process. The yard sorted itself out. He was midway through his warm-up when he heard the doors open again behind him. He did not turn around. He never turned around for new arrivals. That was part of the message. You do not merit my attention until you earn it. He heard footsteps cross the yard, steady footsteps. Not fast, not slow, measured. He heard them cross the outer edge of the yard. He heard them cross the midpoint. He heard them continue until they stopped approximately 15 feet to his left, well inside the center space that every man in that facility understood belonged to Marcus Cole alone. Marcus stopped his movement. He turned his head slowly and looked at the man who had just walked into his space. The man was not large, not by the standards of Westfield. He stood maybe 6 feet tall and carried somewhere around 175 pounds on a lean, quiet frame. Dark hair, dark eyes, a face that was completely still, the way a surface of deep water is still. Not because nothing is happening underneath, but because whatever is happening has no need to announce itself. He was not looking at Marcus. He was looking at the ground in front of him, rolling his shoulders slowly, beginning to stretch. His name was Keanu Reeves. He had arrived the night before with no fanfare and no introduction beyond the standard processing paperwork. The guards had noted his name, his number, his assigned block. They had not noted anything else because there was nothing else visible to note. He was quiet. He was cooperative. He asked no questions and made no statements. He ate his intake meal without speaking to anyone and went to his assigned bunk without incident. But a few of the older inmates had noticed something. The way he moved was different. Not different in a way that was easy to describe. More like the difference between a man who has learned to be calm and a man who simply is calm. There was no performance in it, no effort. He moved like a man who had made a very long time ago a decision about how he would carry himself, and the decision had become so deeply settled that it no longer required any conscious maintenance. Marcus Cole turned his full body toward the man now. He crossed his arms. He let the silence sit for a moment, the way a man does when he wants the silence itself to be the first message. "You are in my space," Marcus said. His voice was not raised. It did not need to be. The yard was quiet enough that every man within 60 feet could hear every word, and every man within 60 feet had already stopped what he was doing to watch. Keanu Reeves continued his stretch. He moved from his left shoulder to his right shoulder with the same unhurried attention. Then he looked up. He looked at Marcus the way you look at a landmark you have been told about and are now confirming with your own eyes. Calm, interested, not impressed, not afraid. "Just present, I heard you," Keanu said. Marcus waited. When no further response came, he took 2 steps forward. The gap between them closed to 10 feet. Behind Marcus, without any signal being given, the other inmates began to drift inward. Not rushing, just adjusting. The way iron filings move toward a magnet without deciding to. Within 90 seconds, a loose circle had formed around the 2 men, 40 inmates. 60. The guards in the elevated posts along the wall had noticed the gathering and were watching, hands near their radios but not yet moving. 4 years, Marcus said. Nobody trains in the center. That is not a suggestion. Keanu lowered his arms from his stretch. He stood straight and looked at Marcus without any change in his expression. He did not look at the circle forming around them. He did not look at the guards. He looked at Marcus the way a man looks at a conversation he has decided to finish before moving on with his day. "I am not looking for your yard," Keanu said. "I am looking for a place to work. If there is a specific reason that place cannot be here, I will hear it." The directness of it landed in the yard like a stone dropped into still water. The circle tightened slightly. Not one man in that space had spoken to Marcus Cole that way in 4 years. Not one. Every challenge that had come before had come wrapped in aggression, in noise, in performance. This was not that. This was quieter than aggression. This was something else, and the something else was harder to read and therefore harder to prepare for. Marcus uncrossed his arms. He took 1 more step forward. The gap was 6 feet now. He was using his size the way he always used it, letting the physical reality of 295 pounds speak before his mouth did. It had always worked. The body language alone had ended confrontations before they began, had made men step back and look away and find somewhere else to be. Keanu Reeves did not step back. He did not look away. He shifted his weight slightly, a minimal adjustment, the kind of movement that meant nothing to someone who did not know what to look for, and everything to someone who did. His hands stayed at his sides. His shoulders stayed level. His eyes stayed on Marcus. Marcus saw it. He was not a man who missed things. He had survived too long and too well in too many hard places by reading people accurately. What he saw in Keanu Reeves in that moment was not bravado. It was not recklessness. It was not the performance of a man trying to seem unafraid. It was the actual absence of fear, and that was a different thing entirely, a much rarer thing, and a much more dangerous one. The yard was completely silent now. Not one foot shuffling, not one cough. The kind of silence that only gathers when a large group of people collectively understands that what is happening in front of them is not ordinary. Marcus Cole had two options, and he understood both of them with complete clarity. He had not survived 4 years at Westfield by being anything other than precise in his calculations. He could push this further, and whatever happened next would happen in front of 60 witnesses and 4 elevated guard posts. And the outcome was suddenly, for the first time in a very long time, not entirely clear to him, or he could make a different choice. He looked at Keanu for a long moment. The moment stretched. The yard waited. Then Marcus Cole did something nobody in that circle had seen him do in 4 years. He looked at the ground, just briefly, just for 1 second. Then he looked back up. He said nothing. He turned and walked to the edge of the yard, toward the weight equipment along the far wall. His crew followed him after a beat, uncertain, recalibrating, not sure what they had just witnessed. The circle broke apart slowly. Men drifted back to their routines. The guards relaxed their hands from their radios. Keanu Reeves went back to his stretch, unhurried, unaffected, like a man who had simply resolved a minor logistical question and was now continuing with his morning. By the end of that day, every man in Westfield Correctional Facility had heard the story. By the end of that week, it had been passed through 3 cell blocks and 2 other facilities through the network of calls and messages that connect those worlds. The details changed with each telling, the way details always do. But the core of it stayed the same in every version. The man who owned the center of the yard had looked away first, and the man who made him do it had not thrown a single punch.